This is Miss Lizzie, and I want to welcome you to the Queen Lizzie podcast. Together, we will go through the history of Rosewood, Florida, and watch as the once prosperous town rises out of the bloodshed, fire, and ash to reveal the people, the memory, and the legacy of Rosewood. Watch every Thursday on Facebook and YouTube, or listen to our story on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Hello, everybody. I am Lizzie Robinson Jenkins, representing not only the Rosewood Foundation, but the personal testimonies and history of cherished friends and family. You are now watching the Queen Lizzie podcast. Today, we are talking with Dr. Anthony Dixon. Welcome, Dr. Dixon.
Thank you.
To the Queen Lizzie podcast. Yes, I am honored to have you stop by, put away your busy schedule, and come by and take this great opportunity to talk to me about grant writing, right?
Yes, we can talk about that.
Welcome, Dr. Anthony Dixon, to the Queen Lizzie podcast.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule to come to Gainesville, drive all the way to Gainesville to interview with me on the Queen Lizzie podcast. I am honored and I am excited. So you may share with me, us, what your job is and why you are interested in Rosewood.
Okay, I am a public historian.
Okay.
Which means I basically take academic information and we provide it, that information to the public.
Okay.
And so, particularly for me, is African American, African and African diaspora in general history.
Yes.
And so what I do is I work with libraries, I work with museums, and I work with community centers in terms of, with museums, creating exhibits that tell different stories as we look at the various, what I like to call the various points to African diaspora studies. And for me, there are 3 points. That first point is to provide a voice to the voiceless.
Yes.
The second point is to make cultural connections.
Okay.
And then the third is to use that information in solving and looking at issues that we're facing today. Because there's no need to learn that information if we're not going to apply it to things that we're dealing with today.
Okay.
And so I'm also an archivist, so I work with libraries and museums as well. Okay. And I work with community centers in terms of doing public history programming. Sometimes it's just basic programming for the entire community and getting them more knowledgeable of their own community's history.
Right.
Or is programming with children and after school providing that historical and cultural information because our children need those cultural reinforcements. And so all of that good stuff ties me directly to grant writing.
Okay.
And so I was going to take a few minutes to talk about understanding grant writing.
Yes.
Right? And I think the first and foremost important thing for people to understand is that in the grant writing, in the whole process, right? Grant writing is coming from either a foundation or it's coming from the state, or even national, right?
Okay.
Which means there's allocated money. That allocated money could have different stipulations on it, which is normally in the application process, but there are also different types of stipulations in terms of the actual number, right? When I say number, I mean the monetary number.
Okay.
That number could change. That number could fluctuate, right? Particularly when you're talking about state and government grants.
Exactly.
You know, because allocations come, and as I learned as from being a commissioner on the Gullah Geechee Heritage Corridor,
Okay.
two words, small words, but they mean a tremendous difference, right? The words shall and may.
Really?
Oh, shall and may means shall means that if you see something, particularly with the grants, and there's the grant money, and it says shall, then that money is determined. That money is in there. That money is guaranteed. But if it says may,
Okay.
that means that that money, it can go down. It could even disappear.
Oh, okay.
And so people have to understand that. So when you write these grants and you put in, you have to understand that there are other factors that go in. And I'll give you a very good example. I was sitting on the Department of Historical Resources for the state. I was sitting on their grant review panel, right? And we were reviewing all of these various grants, right? And we had already reviewed them. We had graded them. We were. It was actually the day where we give them an opportunity to talk, and then we make our final decisions.
Okay.
Well, while we were making our final decisions, right, someone just comes in and they basically pull the chairman for our panel, the grant review panel, pull them to the side, whispered a few things to them, walked off. Chairman came back, sat down, and said the state had allocated all funds, which means everybody is getting granted. Period. Boom. That's it. They had the money to cover all the grants. You
Really?
see, so but it can go either way.
Either way.
Right?
Either way.
That's what I'm saying. Sometimes you don't know whether or not you got a grant strictly based on the merit of that grant or how well it was written.
Right.
There's sometimes other factors. But what you should always do, if you get the grant or don't get the grant, always ask for, if they do give them, some of them don't, but most do, you can ask for that review. And you can get the write-up in the review that the panelists did. So whatever weaknesses were in that grant, you can see it. Whatever strengths you had, you know what you did right, you know what you need to work on, and you continue to become a better grant writer. So you always ask for those reviews.
Okay.
And most places will give you, it may take them a little while to get it to you, but they'll give you that review so you can see, how well you did or what deficiencies or little things you needed to tighten up.
Okay.
But always understand that it's not 100% tied to how well that grant was written. There are always going to be some other factors there.
Exactly. And you
So-
have to stay away from, remember the two words that you said?
Yeah, you have to
Shall.
remember when you're looking at those things and you're looking at where the basis of the money is coming from, particularly. Now, foundations, it's a lot harder. Foundations not going to really tell you much about how the funds are going to be allocated for you or where they even came from out of their foundation, right? But for state, local, and national grants, you can do some digging, you can do some searching in terms of finding out where that allocation came from.
Right.
And that's going to give you that idea.
So you're saying there are certain keywords when you're writing a grant that you have to stay away from or use to make a difference.
Now, when we're talking about the actual writing of the grant, right? In my experience, and my advice is to ensure, right? You ensure that you cover everything that they're asking
Okay.
for. And my in my experience, the best way to do that is by committee, meaning whomever writes that grant,
Okay.
there should be at least two other people that actually read it, and they read the question and then they read your answers.
Okay.
Because a lot of times when you're writing,
Mm-hmm.
you writing this in your head.
Right.
You may not get it exactly how you had it in your head there.
Right.
You may have left some small thing out. You may have gone off on a tangent that took it too far, so it didn't definitively answer that question.
Okay.
But if you have two other people there, they're like, well, you really didn't say whether or not, how the deliverable was going to be taken care of. How are the kids going to get such and such?
Exactly.
So my suggestion is always have minimum,
Of
someone,
two
but
people.
I think you should have two
To
because you
edit
get those
and-
two perspectives and they're both looking, with their eyes as well. So
Okay.
one will catch something, the other one may be a lot stronger in grammatical.
Yes.
So they're getting your grammatical right.
Okay.
The other one is specifically looking on how well you answered the questions.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I think that is when you're actually writing the grant, that's the best way. That you concentrate on the specifics of what they ask,
Right.
but then make sure you have someone else, I say at least two people, to read over it. One grammatical, the other one is looking specifically at the information in the delivery and whether or not you thoroughly answered what they asked for.
Perfect. Perfect. Because it depends too on the words, the wordings, the way they are used and inserted in the grant. I understand. I'm not a grant writer, but I understand that well, you said it at the beginning, the shells and the maize, okay, will
Right.
determine. So I understand why editors or two people are needed, okay, to make sure what you are
Right.
saying and all of y'all are on the same
That
page.
you have adequately, right, that you have adequately, what I
Follow
like
the
to say,
picture.
fleshed out
Okay.
that program. They need to know how that program is going to work, right? And they need to know how that money is going
I
to
was
be
about to
allocated,
I was
right?
about to ask.
So
That was
your
my next
budget,
question.
that's what I'm saying. Those other two eyes, they need to look at that
Uh-huh.
budget as well.
Okay.
They need to make sure
Sure.
that all the money accounted for is accounted for.
Exactly.
To the penny, not to the dollar, to the
To
penny.
the penny. And let
And
me
that's the best way, in my opinion.
and let me ask you this, that I think I have forgotten what I was about to ask you about grant money. Can't remember what I was going to say, but I think you have explained it, that it needs to be accountable. Cross your T's and all of the I's are dotted
That's right.
to the penny.
To
You
the
have
penny
made
with
that
your
clear.
budget, yes.
And that's the purpose of having backup readers or other
Right.
readers. Yes.
And one of those readers, well, hopefully both of them have experience with grants because
Mm-hmm.
that way they know how to do these budgets.
Okay.
Because some grants, particularly again with state, local, and national grants, they will have their own budget sheet.
Right.
And so it's up to you to understand that and understand the formulas that they are using, right? So they may have only a certain number of percentage of in kind that you can use.
Exactly.
So if this, you have an entity that is supporting you, but you have to also look at how much in kind you're getting
Right.
from them.
Right.
Because I've seen it go both ways. Not enough, and then you could get a little bit more, so you get someone else to help you and take care of this for you, or it goes over.
Okay.
And now you have to redo the budget
Redo
because
the budget.
the budget says 30% in kind. You got 42% there. You have to redo it.
Thank you. And the reason I have invited you in is because we're trying to build a Rosewood Museum in Archer. However, the massacre happened in Levy County. But we are going to bring the museum to Archer, build it on 29 acres, where the school teacher, my aunt, was born and grew up on this property. And we still have the property in the family, and we want to bring the Rosewood Museum, I tell people, home. Okay, and I am so glad you are here. I'm so glad you are able to answer our questions. And I do understand that all grants are not approved, but this is a start. And then some of our board members are interested in writing grants. So you will have support, you or whomever, okay? Write the grant writers will have support. And we're looking forward to make this very, very, very exciting and very real, because it's our children. I heard you mention a minute ago about children. The most important people in the world today are our kids, the next generation. They got to carry the history forward. And if we need to teach them, start teaching them how to grant write, I hope we can do that with direction and guidance from you, because I hope you're going to be on our team. Thank you.
Yes.
And then we start young. And there are so many groups here that's so ready to work. I just met the basketball coach from Santa Fe College. The first thing that came out of his mouth, I want you to come out and speak to my girls, my basketball women. I'm going to be so excited because he said they need to know history.
Yes.
Yes.
Because that's the thing, right? The great Marva Collins proved,
yeah,
right? There's always a theoretical and a practical, right?
Yes.
Well, the practical part is that Marva Collins proved that cultural reinforcements are just as important as the information itself.
Exactly.
And so if our kids can't relate, if they don't see how our culture or their culture is intertwined with the information, then they are not going to accept the information as well as we want them to.
Exactly.
And then that results in them not exceedingly doing well and not reaching and maximizing their potential and exceeding all expectations, which we know our children can do.
They can do
so
it.
We have to give those cultural reinforcements.
Okay.
So if those cultural reinforcements means that we have to do it at that after-school program in the community center, so be it. That means they need to take more trips to the museum and see how different people before them have done these things, so that it opens their eyes up, so that they can see, hey, I may want to be this. I may want to be a sound engineer.
Exactly.
I may want to be HVAC. I may want to be one of these other things that they normally don't hear about. But those are all of the cultural reinforcements and all of the things that they need to open their eyes to see where they can go in life.
Okay, that is so true. That's about time for our first half. We are going to head to a quick break, and we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
I am Black History.
I am Rosewood Black History. I am Florida and America's Black History, and you are too.
January 1st, 1923, the KKK insurrectionists attacked Rosewood, killing 5, burning it down.
Because a white woman lied and cried, a black man assaulted me. Rosewood redevelopment is on its way.
Want to help? Visit rosewoodflorida.com.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, two things haven't: our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured.
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
And our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Welcome back to Queen Lizzie Podcast, brought to you weekly from the Steve Spurrier Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We are here with Dr. Anthony Dixon. The Queen Lizzie Podcast is brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union, live from the Meldon Law Gator Studios at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We have been doing this since January 2023. It is getting more and more and more interesting, and we are reaching more and more more and more members. And some of the members that we are reaching, I am a life member of those organizations. And the reason I'm going to tell you that I am a life member is because I want all of you life members listening outside to make sure you go to rosewoodflorida.com, Rosewood, Florida, spell Florida out, FLORIDA.com, and make a donation to help us build this Rosewood Museum for the next generation, for your children, my children, and everybody else's children. We need a museum. So one of the most important organization that I am a member of is the Juneteenth International Education Board, wherein I serve next seat, although we are on Zoom, but I'm sitting next to Zoom only. Opal Lee, Dr. Opal Lee, who is the grandmother of Juneteenth. And it is a pleasure working with her. I am a member of my sorority, Zeta Phi Beta sorority. I'm a member, life member of ASALA. I work with Dr. Lowry, and I'm thinking that's the right name. And I'm also a member of the NAACP. And I want all of you all who are listening to me, pick up that phone and go to Rosewood, Florida. Please make a donation. If it's $2 concurrent, like $2 a month, every little bit helps. But do at least $5. Okay, but if you can't do $5, we'll take $2. We need your help to fund this museum that's going to be here for our kids. We don't know. Our kids, I don't care where they are living, they may end up in Archer saying, hey, I want to be a curator there. I want to be a grant writer. I want to help in some small way. Okay? So I like telling people that I am a member of Zeta Phi Beta sorority, which I call the Finer Florida, the blue and white Finer Florida. And I do have on my pen today. So let's do this together to keep the history of Rosewood alive. And as I say on all of my podcasts, my aunt was a Rosewood school teacher. She was not from Rosewood. She was not from Levy County. She was from Archer in Alachua County. She married a young man in Rosewood, Levy County. She moved there. She taught there for 7 years before the 1923 Rosewood Massacre. It was really aggressive. It was horrific. 5 people died, 5 blacks died, 2 whites died. The town was burned down completely. However, as I said, she was a survivor. But for the rest of her life, she died young at 54. She was agonized. She was followed by the conspirators because they didn't want the news to get out that the blacks resisted and fought back. They never wanted that news to get out. So they intimidated not only her, they intimidated everybody that they knew. If they lived in Rosewood, if they were able to follow them, they intimidated them. So my mother said to me, which is the sister to the school teacher, said to me, said, baby, this is history. It's black history. Black history is American history. We got to keep this history alive. We cannot allow anybody to ban our history because our history, she said, is the history. And I would ask my mom often, and I'm not going to go there, but I did ask her, Mom, why is it that everybody is so interested in Black history, she said it's a history that is worthwhile, okay, remembering. So please, y'all, we need to work together and make sure not only our children, but all children remember history. The people that work with me and I work with, they are Black, white, brown, green, whatever color, okay? They are Republicans, Democrats, Independents. I work with people. And this is what my goal is, to bring us together to tell our story positively, as bad as it was. Mom said, research, authenticate, document, and never attack anyone, because, baby, they didn't create Rosewood history and you didn't create it. But tell it, preserve it. And if we don't tell it and keep it out there, y'all know that it may repeat. So it's not easy telling it. It is painful telling the story of Rosewood, but I do it anyway because I hope that we will, it will change the face of America. And my mom also said to me, baby, I'm going to write you a song so that you can remember that the whites helped. Had it not been for the whites in Levy County, especially the sheriff, because Levy County, Cedar Key is a peninsula, one way in and one way out, and Cedar Key is adjacent to Rosewood. She said, well, this is a song I want you to sing to let everybody know that the sheriff was involved. 13 verses. I'm only going to sing 3 that tells, she said, the most important part of what happened in Rosewood. And it goes like this. The Cedar Key train conductors were told to pick up in Rosewood. Standing by the tracks with a lantern, his young school teacher stood, waiting in desperation to carry out the sheriff's plans, rounding up the hidden survivors to board the midnight train. The sheriff and the store owner worked around the clock, informed the train conductors just when and where to stop, pick up the men and women and children who were hiding out, and bring them to Archer, Florida, traveling the same old route. Bob Walker and John Wright took on a daring risk, put the survivors on the train, Lord, and sent them off with a kiss. Notified the Gainesville families to be on the lookout for their kin. Told them the train was a-coming and told them exactly when. So when they left Cedar Key, there were unsung heroes that volunteered late at night to help rescue the old men from Rosewood and the old women and children and put them on the train. Their first stop was Archer. That was back to my aunt's home. That train stopped in Archer, they left there, and it went on to Gainesville and dropped off other survivors. So the story goes on and on and on. But we need to know that we need to work together just like those people did back then and got us out of alive. We need to come together and keep this history alive, okay, for our kids. What do you think?
And for moving forward, right?
Yes.
Because Black history is American history. These stories, right? Again, like I was saying with diaspora studies, providing that voice to the voiceless, right?
Yes.
What it does also is it provides that other aspect to these historical events.
Yes.
Right? And when you provide that other aspect, then you understand the others that were involved. Mm-hmm. When you're able to understand their perspective, you understand their part, what happened to them in these major events, then you understand the full or the totality of what we say, as being the melting pot and being diverse.
Yes.
Right? And understanding it. So it's not about sympathy.
Exactly.
It's about empathy.
Empathy.
And so when you understand these stories and you understand perspective of these things that you sometimes have heard about, and then some things you've never heard about.
Exactly.
But then you understand that it's part of still a large part of American fabric.
Yes.
So then you begin to understand everyone's piece in the American fabric.
Yes.
And so now we move forward in diversity.
Absolutely. I could not have said it better. And that's what we are going to do. That is what is needed. It is needed. Would you like to send a shout out to the importance of donating to the foundation? What would you say to them?
Here's what I say, and what I say to everyone that when I ask for support in doing these documentaries and these films and things, helping with museums, archives, getting people to donate, all of that good stuff is, we also have to understand, right? If we want our voices to be part of it, and we want the story told accurately, right? Then that means we have to take some responsibility. It's our story. We have to help tell that story. We have to tell our stories to make sure that they are accurate, right?
Yes.
And we cannot sit by and wait for others to do something that really is our responsibility.
Exactly.
And so we ask people, right? We ask people to be more responsible, and understanding that this is important. It's important for the community to move forward. It's important for our children, to learn these things. It's important for adults to learn these things so that they can understand also why the community work is so important.
Exactly. And again, I could not have said it better. Did you all hear? Your support is important.
Yes.
It's not about me. It's not about Dr. Dixon. It's about history.
And us.
And
and
us.
how we move forward together. Because we all have that responsibility to help move our communities and our children and generations forward.
Exactly. Perfect. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for having me.
All right. It was my honored pleasure having you on my show. Okay. I am continuously humbled, honored, and blessed to meet people daily and invite them to join in peace building, healing, and reconciliation through learning about the history of Rosewood. That will wrap up today's episode. I am Queen Lizzie until next time, and I'm looking forward to working with Dr. Dixon on our grant writing. Thank you very much.
Some good work done.
All right. Thank you.